For as long as the CCP has been in power, it has pushed vanity projects over actual, meaningful infrastructure, and the Chinese people are the ones who suffer the results. Welcome to China Uncensored, I'm Chris Chappell. Communists are all about image, and the Chinese Communist Party is no exception. They spend tons of time, money, and effort on building things that make China and the CCP seem just that much more glorious and grandiose, rather than, focusing on projects that'll actually help Chinese people, like fixing China's poor infrastructure and its lackluster safety standards. That kind of thing just isn't flashy enough to put on social media. This is especially true on the local level, where province and city officials try to outdo each other with vanity projects that will look good to their superiors. Let's take toilets as an example. Yes, toilets. No, this isn't a lead up to a joke, because the CCP itself is such a joke, it makes satire redundant. Years ago, Chinese leader Xi Jinping launched a massive toilet revolution to make it so that the toilets in China would no longer look like this. It's rough when the bathroom from Saw looks more sanitary. You could say clean toilets were the CCP's number 2 priority, behind maintaining power. But some Chinese officials took it too far. I'm talking refrigerators, microwave ovens, LCD televisions, and automatic shoe polishers in public bathrooms. Frankly, I'd just settle for people who know how to aim at the urinal. Things spiraled so out of control that China started cracking down on so-called 5-star restrooms. But even when the toilets aren't 5-star, they can still be vanity projects. A few months ago, Chinese state-run media reported that Dushan County in Shanxi province spent nearly $320,000 to build 23 new high-standard public toilet facilities that only unlocked when leaders visited. They built all this just to be props to please government officials. Yep, sounds like communism, all right. These ought to come equipped with mentally handicapped stalls. Locals, meanwhile, had to keep using the old toilets that were less than 100 meters away because apparently it was too much of a hassle to pay for cleaning and maintenance. I know that New York and California have made some toilets that are mad expensive, but at least people can use them. Of course, it's not like Chinese people and even state-run media don't notice what the government's doing. The China Youth Daily, the official newspaper of the Chinese Communist Youth League, was not too happy about these toilets. It said that the local officials' excuses were laughable and that high-quality public toilets are meant for people to use, not to be used as landmarks just for viewing. You're not supposed to stare at toilets. You're supposed to stare at your phone while on the toilet. It also said it's undoubtedly a massive waste to invest so much financial funds into empty shells that nobody will use. In short, they're pissed they're not allowed to piss. The Dushan government has since responded to the backlash by launching an investigation and vowing to rectify and hold those accountable. But the problem isn't the toilets. The problem is the CCP. WeChat commentator Fourth Ring Road Youth noted, "The new projects are just a vanity project, a showpiece for officials. These bathrooms are vanity projects with a literal vanity." As long as the CCP remains focused on the image of modernization or tourism-worthy beauty, rather than anything of actual substance, local governments will keep making vanity projects to impress their higher-ups. Take, for example, this building in Dushan County. It has many names: the Shuisi Building, Shuisi Fee Hall, the Water Commissioner's Mansion, the Water Bureau Building, and more. It was built to incorporate local Shui culture architecture, to be one of the world's only buildings made entirely of wood and glazed pottery, and to be exactly 99.9 meters high. The idea was, of course, to draw tourists. Only it was never finished and nobody came to see it. And when it was eventually declared a fire hazard due to the fact that it was made almost entirely of wood, it had to be completely reworked into a modern hotel, which of course cost even more money on top of the $27 million the county borrowed to build it. This is just one of several costly, unfinished vanity projects in Dushan County, which left the county $5.7 billion in debt. To give you perspective, Dushan County at the time had an annual revenue of less than $140 million, and the population of just 360,000 will have to pay interest. But it's not just about wasted money. China's vanity projects could cost actual lives. All over China, local officials have transformed their city skylines by building massive numbers of impressive-looking high-rise buildings. Even if it didn't make sense to build them, especially in low-density cities. You don't need that much space for so few people. That'd be like booking Wembley Stadium to host an insane clown posse bagpipe cover band. The rush to look great was real. Safety standards, not so much. Then this happened. In 2021, a skyscraper in Shenzhen started swaying wildly, sending people running. According to my favorite state-run media, the Global Times, this was thanks to the wind and aging masts rather than any inherent structural instability. Now, I'm no architect, but I'm pretty sure skyscrapers shouldn't have the same physics as wacky arm-flailing inflatable tube men. Ultimately, no one was hurt by the swaying skyscraper incident, but it was a wake-up call. So much so that central CCP officials started cracking down on vanity project super skyscrapers. But the truth is, central CCP vanity projects are bigger, costlier, and more deadly than anything built on the local level. Take, for example, the city of Xiongan, Xi Jinping's pet vanity project. It's estimated that the final cost will be somewhere between $93 billion and $128 billion. For context, $128 billion is a lot of money. Xi is staking his personal legacy on this. In fact, it's so important to him that when Typhoon Doksuri struck in 2023, rural areas around the city were sacrificed for Xiongan. When CCP officials in Beijing used networks of dams and reservoirs to reroute floodwaters into them. I'd say this is like pushing kids out of the way on a sinking ship to get to the lifeboats first, but this feels more like using the kids as the lifeboat. It led to massive protests.
A rare moment of defiance in China. Angry residents on the steps of a municipal government building in the city of Bazhou. Their sign says, "Give me back my home. The flood was caused by floodwater discharge, not by heavy rainfall." At some point, men with police shields dispersed the crowd.
Wow, authorities violently breaking up a protest. Where haven't Chinese people been allowed to see that before? So what was so important that required the sacrifice of thousands of rural Chinese? A bustling urban center? No. A ghost city. While China has built thousands of buildings here in less than a decade, the Wall Street Journal paid Xiongan a visit earlier this year. Here's what they saw.
But right now it is just a deathly silence. You just don't see a lot of people around. You can hear a couple of cleaning workers, a couple of people off in the distance, some security guards, but other than that, it is pretty quiet here.
In fact, while local authorities say 120,000 people have moved into these new homes over the past 7 years, many of them aren't newcomers, but locals from the villages flattened to make way for the city.
But why look at it as a negative? Instead of saying it's empty, say it's spacious. More legroom. Then I had an insane clown posse bagpipe cover band concert. Now, many people on the internet will say, well, duh, of course it's still empty. The city's still under construction and it won't be complete for another decade or two. Lots of people go so far as to say that the money's well spent and that the price for construction is a fantastic bargain. Yeah, because if the swaying skyscraper taught us anything, it's that cheaping out on construction is always a brilliant idea. I'm going to go out on a limb here and predict that the finished product is going to have a lot of problems. And I mean a lot. But even if it ends up being the model of perfect socialism that Xi wants it to be, that still doesn't address China's many, many problems with vanity projects all across the nation. Meanwhile, basic infrastructure gets to play second fiddle, from super shaky high-speed trains to bridges that collapse and subways that flood all over the place. Like all communists, the CCP values image over substance and personal vanity over the welfare of the Chinese people. People have died so that the image of a glorious communist society could live, and that is the real legacy of the CCP. The other legacy of the CCP is revolution. It's a bit ironic because communist China was built on revolution, and the CCP pushed for it when they were the rebels. But now, the spirit of revolution is turning against the CCP. Things like the Zero COVID protests and acts of public defiance like this show that small sparks of rebellion are lighting up across China. Will the CCP be able to crush dissent forever? Or is this the beginning of the end for the CCP? I know you want to know, which is why I made a special 13-minute deep dive episode about it. It takes a lot to make videos like these, which is why I put it exclusively on my membership website, ChinaUncensored.tv. It's only for people who are serious about standing up to the CCP and supporting this kind of content. Is that you? If it is, click the link below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. I hope to see you there.